Yours to Melt by Rimu-Chi. Unnecessary EXSISTENT and the creator. Third person POV outside the borders of the shattered nation of Tempest, beneath the vast blue dome of a calm noonday sky, mockingly serene despite the carnage it overlooked, 3 sprawling military camps marred the once pristine natural landscape. Their banners fluttered arrogantly in the wind, emblazoned with the twin emblems of the Kingdom of Falmouth and the Western Holy Church. Their tents, reinforced by enchantments and lined with holy barriers, formed circular bastions of confidence, their formation as rigid as the pride of the men within them. To them, the battle was already won. Tempest, they believed, had been crippled, its magic suppressed by the holy barrier cast across the capital's skies, its people slaughtered like insects, and its leadership assassinated or scattered. Within the largest of these camps, a vast command tent loomed like a spider's den, where the so-called architects of this invasion whispered lies and sipped wine, mistaking silence from the enemy for victory. King Edmaris of Falmouth, a portly man with thinning hair and eyes as narrow as his grasp of consequence, leaned over a detailed map sprawled on an oak war table, his pudgy fingers tracing paths to conquest. 3 camps, 20,000 elite soldiers, reinforced by the divine protection of the Church. Our enemies reduced to ash under holy light. Tempest is no more than a carcass waiting for vultures, he sneered, his voice thick with delusion. Indeed, heard Archbishop Rahimuth, his voice oozing with sanctimonious pride, as though the blood on his hands had been holy water. Clad in gold-trimmed robes, the man of faith looked more warlord than cleric, his bejeweled fingers steepled as he nodded. Hinata Sakaguchi has already killed Rimuru Tempests. The heretic slime was annihilated before the true wrath of the Church. With their leader gone, what remains of Tempest is ripe for divine judgment. And beside them, silent and calculating, sat Raisin, the royal court sorcerer. Or rather, what remained of him? For his soul had long since been reincarnating to the man now wearing his face. Shogo Taguchi, a murderous otherworlder, through that unholy transference had inherited his magical prowess, though not his cunning. The holy barrier will hold, Raisin muttered, more to himself than the others. No monster, no demon, no abomination can step through it. Tempest's corpse belongs to Falmouth now. Yet, unknown to these pompous fools, 2 of their 3 encampments had already been utterly annihilated, consumed by violet flames and raging winds, by monsters driven by wrath and despair. Not a single messenger had returned. Not a single survivor had crawled free to speak of the hellfire. And above the last remaining camp, the one where 20,000 soldiers remained in arrogant, blissful ignorance, a shadow passed across the sky. The wind shifted. The air, previously still, now trembled with invisible fury. High above the clouds where no human eye could yet perceive, a monstrous creature of ancient legend soared on wings that seemed to cleave the heavens themselves. A storm gathered around him, not of water, but of raw magic, crackling with the pressure of infinite mana. The storm dragon Veldor, a Tempest, his scales shimmered with midnight black, flecked with silver bolts of lightning that pulsed like veins across his titanic frame. His golden eyes burned like twin suns, narrowed in open disdain as he cast his gaze upon the insects below. Ants who dared to burn his friend's nation and stain his best friend's dream with their filth. And seated atop the beast's broad back was a figure bathed in the light of vengeance. A silver-blue mane fluttered behind him, radiant like starlight, as he stared down with narrowed golden eyes, reflecting not justice, but judgment. His face was calm, eerily calm, but beneath that silence raged a storm that made even Veldor's wrath seem like child's play. Rimuru Tempest. But not the same Rimuru who once fumbled through diplomacy and smiled at children. No, this was a man reborn in rage, forged anew by the agony of loss. A king who had held the broken, lifeless body of his beloved Xian in the gentle, cooling form of Shizu, and in that moment, vowed to unmake the world that dared to take them. Veldor's booming voice shattered the quiet above the clouds. So, those bastards down there. Those are the ones who thought they could pack with our family. His voice shook the skies themselves, a divine sound of storm and fury. Rimuru's reply came not with volume, but with lethal clarity. Every single one of them, he said, eyes fixed like a blade of judgment. Every soldier, every priest, every coward hiding behind that holy barrier, they're all responsible. And they're all going to die. Veldor's wings stilled, holding him aloft with magic alone. "TCH, you sure you can pull it off? You gonna try and resurrect them? Xian. Shizu. You'll bring them back, right?" Despite his fury, there was a sliver of doubt in the dragon's ancient voice. Rimuru closed his eyes. "I have to. I don't care what I have to become." Inquiry. "Master, shall I begin the process?" Demon Lord seed acquisition was successful. Great Sage's voice, serene and mechanical, cut through the whirlwind of emotion like a scalpel. "Good. Start it. Acknowledge. Initiating Demon Lord evolution sequence. Permission granted to accumulate required souls. Target, 20,000 human souls minimum." "Perfect," Rimuru whispered, his voice hollow. "They brought the number to me." Suddenly, the air itself seemed to fracture, as if reality bent to acknowledge a terrifying truth. A voice not from the world, but from beyond it, spoke within Rimuru's consciousness. Less than notice. Individual Rimuru Tempest has successfully acquired the Demon Lord seed. Greater than. Less than notice. The Great Spirit of Darkness has blessed the seed. Evolution conditions met. Greater than. Master, proceed with the soul harvest. Your evolution into a true Demon Lord shall begin with the destruction of this final army. Rimuru opened his eyes again, and now they burned with something not even gods dared to name. "They think they've won," he whispered to Veldora. "They think they've caged the storm, but I am the storm." Veldora grinned, fangs bared, his glee as deadly as it was unholy. "Then let's packing make them regret breathing." Rimuru rose to his feet, the wind howling around him like an omen. Time to start the rampage. With a roar that cracked the clouds and split the sky, Veldora dove downward. And with him, rode Wrath incarnate. The sky above the Falmouth encampment cracked like a mirror under the weight of a divine curse, and the shadow that descended from its fractured heart was not born of clouds nor chance, but of rage incarnate. A beast of storm and apocalypse whose arrival silenced even the bravest of men. The thunderous screech of displaced air was the first warning, followed swiftly by the collective gasps and screams of 20,000 soldiers as the towering form of the storm dragon, Veldora Tempest, emerged from the heavens like a punishment carved into the flesh of the sky itself. What the hell is that?" a soldier cried, dropping his spear as the pressure alone drove him to his knees. "That's, no, it can't be. It's real. That damn dragon is real, he's heading right for us." The command camp was thrown into instant disarray, rows of tents torn asunder by panicked feet, generals and knights shouting contradictory orders, clergymen raising trembling hands in futile prayers. Even the enchanted holy barrier, so carefully erected to seal away all demonic and monster threats, flickered uncertainly in the shadow of Veldora's overwhelming presence. Raisin. His face still bearing the features of the sorcerer, but within now hijacked by Shogo Taguchi's warped soul, snapped his fingers and bellowed, "Protect His Majesty and Archbishop Rahimeth. Mages to the front. Raise every damn ward we have." His voice cracked with false bravado, but the fear was visible in his twitching eyes and the way his fingers trembled despite himself. Knights surged to their positions, forming defensive phalanxes in front of the king's pavilion, raising shields that would shatter like glass under the weight of what approached. They clutched their weapons in trembling hands, trying to steady their resolve with shouts of loyalty and chants of holy strength, but it was the courage of sheep facing a hurricane. From the dark clouds, Veldora descended like the blade of divine justice itself, the air parting with a guttural boom as his wings flared wide and his claws raked the wind. And from his broad, scaled back, a figure dropped, not fallen, but descended, slow and deliberate like the reaper at the end of all things. Silver-blue hair caught the sunlight and reflected it like starlight across the camp. Golden eyes burned like embers. Rimuru Tempest landed without a sound, his feet kissing the earth with a silence far more terrifying than thunder. The cloak at his back fluttered around him like black flame, and for a moment, time itself seemed to hold its breath. The moment King Edmaris laid eyes on him, his florid face turned bone white. The goblet in his hand slipped and shattered at his feet. "No, that's impossible," he croaked. You were supposed to be dead. Hinata killed you. The Saint Knight. She killed the slime." Archbishop Rahimeth stumbled back 2 steps, his mouth agape. "And the dragon, that was just a rumor. The storm dragon of Tempest was a myth. No one said it was real." Veldora's head turned sharply, the air sizzling with mana. A packing myth, he thundered, his voice splitting the ground beneath their feet. Who the hell are you calling a myth? You arrogant, pathetic, piss-stained worms. The air shook. Dozens of soldiers screamed and collapsed just from the force of his words. Some vomited. Some fled. Most stood frozen, like animals caught in the glare of a predator beyond comprehension. Rimuru didn't flinch. He simply stepped forward, his golden eyes fixed on the sputtering king. So, he spoke, calm and slow, you're the king of Falmouth. King Edmaris puffed his chest, attempting to feign the last vestiges of confidence. You're nothing but a lowly monster playing God. You're trespassing on sovereign land, and I will not. I see, Rimuru interrupted, turning his back as if the man was beneath him. That's all I needed to hear. He looked to Veldora with a hollow smile. Veldora, head to Falmouth. The dragon snorted. Hey. You sure, partner? Rimuru nodded, eyes glowing. Don't leave anything behind. Ha. Finally, you say something I like. Veldora's massive wings spread wide, gusts of mana charged wind blasting outward as he rose again, the ground trembling beneath his fury. For what they did to your people, for the poison they spread into your lands, for daring to hurt my friend's family, I'll make sure there's nothing left. Not their cities, not their temples, not their packing nobility. Falmouth will be a crater before the sun sets. The dragon turned and soared into the sky, disappearing in a heartbeat toward the west, toward the capital of the Falmouth kingdom. His roar echoed long after his shadow was gone. Down below, one soldier fell to his knees, weeping. No, my family, my wife, my daughter, they're in the capital. Another choked on panic. I didn't sign up for this. Please, gods, someone save them. Rimuru turned slowly toward the sobbing men, eyes devoid of pity. Oh, now you're worried about your families? His voice dropped to a low snarl. What about the children in my nation? What about the parents you butchered in their homes? The lives you erased under the pretense of so-called divine will? Raisin. The thing wearing his skin, spat bitterly, they were monsters. Beasts. They don't feel anything. It was mercy to kill them. That made Rimuru smile, a cold, dead smile. So what if we were born monsters? He asked quietly. Does that mean we're incapable of sorrow? Of hope? Of dreams? Of pain? He stepped closer, each word grinding like stone. No, what makes us different from you isn't the shape of our souls. It's the strength of them. We're stronger, yes, but unlike humans, he spat, we're not packing greedy. We're not selfish. The king straightened up and roared. How dare you speak like this to a king? You're a slime. Nothing but dirt pretending to be divine. The archbishop bellowed with him. The Holy Church will not allow this blasphemy to go unpunished. We are the hand of justice. Rimuru turned away, uncaring. They're just screaming because they know they've already lost. Inside his mind, he felt the calm, clinical tone of his companion stir. All variables are within acceptable parameters. The Demon Lord evolution process may proceed upon death of the required human targets. Master, shall I initiate the soul harvest protocols upon command? Everything's in place, Rimuru thought. All I have to do is kill them, 20,000 souls. And then, Xian, Shizu, I'm coming for you, just wait for a little while. Good, he said aloud, as his body was enveloped in a deep, shifting haze of violet-black aura. His back split open, and from it spread wings, not of flesh, but of magic condensed into the shape of leathery, bat-like extensions of his will, thrumming with unholy energy. The soldiers backed away. Some pissed themselves. Some dropped to their knees and prayed. And above them all, Rimuru rose slowly into the air, his aura crackling with the pressure of countless deaths waiting to happen. His golden eyes narrowed. It's time for you to die. Without a single word spoken aloud, the heavens seemed to tremble in reverence, or perhaps horror, at the stillness of the silver-haired figure floating above a field painted in the blood and ash of collapsing faith. Rimuru Tempest, bathed in the violet haze of death-saturated magicules, stared down in cold, calculating silence, golden eyes unblinking as they swept across the panicking mass of soldiers beneath him. And then it happened. The very air around him shimmered like liquid glass, warping and twisting as if reality itself were being reshaped by the will of something that did not belong to this world. Suddenly, Dozens, no, hundreds, of orbs began to form, their surface rippling like bubbles on the surface of a haunted lake. They floated outward in all directions, weightless and silent, yet pulsing with lethal intent. Rimuru's hand rose slowly, and dropped. "Magado," Rimuru murmured. The sky screamed. The spheres of liquefied death obeyed his gesture without hesitation, lancing downward with impossible speed, like raindrops of divine judgment. The first rows of soldiers barely had time to blink before the orbs struck, some penetrating clean through torsos, some shearing off arms, others erupting midair to send high-pressure blades of water slicing in every direction. "No, no, 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 please." One knight howled, his eyes locked on the hovering death above even as a bubble burst through his helmet, obliterating half his skull with a wet crunch. Another tried to run, only for a sphere to spiral through his legs, severing tendons and bone with surgical cruelty. He fell, screaming for his mother, blood pooling around the remains of his knees. A cleric lifted his staff and begged, "Mercy. In the name of the holy goddess Lu." His voice ended in a gurgle as a sphere sliced through his throat with eerie precision. The ground became a writhing sea of screams, torn limbs, and twitching bodies, and the bubbles kept coming. "Please, I have a family, I didn't do anything, I was just following orders. Help. Anyone. God, please." Their cries echoed, empty and unanswered, drowned beneath the relentless hiss of cutting water and the rising reek of blood and terror. Archbishop Rahimeth, his face smeared with tears and sweat, screamed and tried to run behind the king, cowardice in its purest form. But two spheres sliced into him from either side. One severed his spine, the other impaled him through the mouth. He flopped like a broken marionette before collapsing in a pool of his own bile and brain matter. King Edmaris, who had once sat on a throne built atop lies and stolen pride, didn't even get the dignity of facing his death. He turned to flee, slipped on someone's entrails, and screamed like a pig as a single orb punctured his anus and tore upward through his internal organs, splitting his torso in a grotesque spray of blood and shredded royal robes. It was not a noble death, it was not a warrior's end. It was pathetic. It was perfect. One man remained eerily still amidst the carnage. Raisin. A water orb had pierced clean through his skull, blood and gray matter trailing from the exit wound, yet his body did not convulse or fall. His soul, hidden behind the effects of his unique skill, survivor, clung to life like a roach in a burning house. He did not breathe, he did not blink, he played dead. Far above it all, Rimuru hovered in absolute silence, his golden eyes glowing with a steady, emotionless light as he surveyed the chaos below. He said nothing. But in his mind, a voice, calm, sterile, and endlessly precise, began to speak. "Master. Current confirmed kills, 9,874. Soul integrity harvested and stabilized. Projected soul count with residual magicules, 10,216. You are now at 51.08% of the required souls for Demon Lord evolution. So I'm halfway there, good." Rimuru exhaled slowly, voice flat in his thoughts. "And these water blades. Damn. I didn't think they'd be this cruel." The skill responsible is classified as extra skill, water manipulation. Effect: high-pressure aquatic manipulation that penetrates both magical and physical defenses. Execution speed: 0.002 seconds per target. Huh. That fast? Master has also acquired a new extra skill, Merciless. Condition: activated after executing over 10,000 human targets without pause or remorse. Effect: converts the user's emotions to absolute apathy during combat. Enhances soul harvesting efficiency by 300%. Merciless, huh? He thought, eyelids fluttering, how fitting. Below, the last of the water orbs faded, and silence descended like ash after a firestorm. The battlefield no longer resembled anything human. Just heaps of meat and armor twitching in fading nerves, breathless and broken. Rimuru narrowed his eyes and extended one hand. "There's still more of you." And then his voice turned cold. "Let's test this, merciless, thing out." "Understood, Master." Activating extra skill, Merciless. Initiating wide area soul extraction. The wind stilled. The sky darkened unnaturally, clouds spiraling into a void of silent dusk as if the very world had exhaled in fear. Then, silence. Absolute, horrifying silence. No screaming. No whispering wind. Even the insects seemed to have fled. And then, they rose. Like silver threads of silk, thousands of souls began to lift from the fallen bodies below, their trails glowing pale against the darkness. Each soul drifted upward, slow and dreamlike, swirling around Rimuru's outstretched hand as if drawn to a god that promised no salvation, only oblivion. The bodies hit the ground in unison, thumping like sacks of wet flour. Rimuru watched them fall, blinking slowly. "Wow," he muttered aloud. "That was fast. I didn't think this skill was that strong." He floated downward slowly, his feet touching the blood-soaked ground with a soft tap. Magicules spiraled around him in lazy coils, drawn by the mass harvest of the dead. Confirmed soul count. 20,000. Sufficient for evolution. Initiating core analysis for true demon lord transformation. Notice. Additional soul link established. Source. Veldora Tempest. Analysis complete. Veldora has completed his rampage in Falmouth capital. Total supplementary souls transferred. 2 million. Rimuru's mind blanked. 2 million. Already. Affirmative, Master. Veldora's combat efficiency is classified as apocalyptic. Civilian, military, and noble casualties combined exceed expected parameters. Urban population centers in Falmouth Kingdom have been annihilated. Packing hell, Veldora, he groaned inwardly. That oversized lizard really doesn't know how to hold back. But before he could finish the thought, a wave of dizziness crashed over him like a tidal surge of molten metal. His knees buckled. What the hell? He gasped, hands clutching his head as the world spun violently, colors bending and pulsing around him. Warning. The evolution process into a true demon lord has begun. Physical instability and soul fragmentation are natural symptoms. Please do not panic. Don't panic. My brain's doing packing cartwheels and you're telling me not to panic. Correct. Please endure. Estimated duration, unknown, processing. And then, another ping. Another voice from within her perfect mind. Notice. One target remains alive. Processing vital scan, confirmed. Target is Raisin. Current status, faking death. Hostile intent preserved. Warning. Potential threat level, S-class. Rimuru's head snapped up. That bastard's still alive. But instead of finishing the job himself, Rimuru smirked weakly, his voice gravelly. You know what? I'm tired. Let someone else handle it. He lifted one trembling hand toward the sky, aura cracking like shattered crystal. Great sage, ready the summoning. Bring me a demon. Acknowledged, Master. Beginning summoning sequence. Demon summon, Archclass. As her voice faded, a dark circle burned itself into the air, ancient symbols glowing crimson, spinning faster and faster, like the eye of something that had been waiting for eons to answer a single call. The fabric of space twisted unnaturally, like a whirlpool formed in the core of a collapsing star, and the air cracked. Not shattered, not broken, but torn, as if reality itself had taken a breath it couldn't hold any longer. From within that gash in the world, bathed in a swirling corona of violet flames and black mist, stepped forth a single figure whose presence made even the scorched earth beneath him shiver with awareness. He was tall, refined, radiating a dangerous elegance. His skin was as pale as moonlight drowned in ink, and his midnight black hair, impossibly smooth and lustrous, was streaked with two bold slashes of color. One brilliant crimson like freshly spilled blood, and the other a gleaming gold like the eye of a god watching from a storm-filled sky. His gaze was darker than pitch, pupils gold and ringed with concentric madness, carrying within them the unshakable serenity of something ancient, something that knew death not as a concept, but as a companion. Finally, the demon whispered, stepping forward as the tear in the world closed behind him like an eyelid drawn shut. His voice was velvet-wrapped steel, honey-dipped in malice. I am summoned at last. His burning gaze turned to Rimuru, who still floated high above the battlefield, watching the aftermath with eyes dulled by exhaustion and flickers of black lightning writhing across his aura. The demon smiled, showing white, perfect teeth that weren't fangs but might as well have been. What is this feeling? The air tastes like divinity cracking open. The birth of a true demon lord, how amusing. Rimuru narrowed his eyes, even as his body screamed to collapse again from the aftershock of soul reaping and the stifling pressure of the harvest festival beginning to stir in his core like a solar storm. I summoned you, demon. And I need you to take care of something for me. The demon halted mid-step, head tilting ever so slightly, and then knelt without hesitation, a smooth, noble motion like a knight pledging himself to a forgotten emperor. Say the word, my lord. You're way too quick to submit. Kinda creepy, honestly, Rimuru muttered, raising a tired brow. Submission to overwhelming potential is not cowardice, the demon replied with an elegant grin, still kneeling. It is wisdom. I am Noir. I have waited for your summoning, my lord. The call of one who has consumed despair and forged it into dominion. That is a melody worthy of my allegiance. Yeah, sure, we can get into the dramatics later, Rimuru sighed, rubbing his forehead. There's one rat playing dead. I need you to find him. Kill him. Make sure he doesn't get up again. Noir's grin stretched just slightly, a glint of golden madness flickering in his gaze. With pleasure, my lord. Rimuru didn't wait to see him vanish. Instead, he whispered aloud, Ranga. From beneath him, the shadow at his feet rippled as if it had been waiting all along, and the great black wolf emerged in a burst of starlight mist, his fur rippling with power, his eyes full of worry and reverence. Yes, Rimuru-sama. Without another word, Rimuru shifted, his humanoid form collapsing into his slime body, a smooth, glimmering sphere now faintly pulsing with chaotic, unstable colors, and leapt lightly onto Ranga's back. Take me home, Rimuru said, voice barely above a whisper. I, Rimuru-sama, Ranga howled, his paws kicking off with a burst of divine wind, tearing across the landscape in a blur of lightning and ash. And within the mind that no one else could hear, Rimuru spoke the words he could only trust to her. It's all up to you now, partner. Bring everyone back. Acknowledge. Initiating Soul Link Restoration Protocol. Processing. Please leave the rest to me, Master. Your trust, it is not undeserved. And in the silence of that moment, something impossible happened, not merely a function being performed, not merely a skill activating, but a shift, a subtle one. A sense of self, tiny and trembling, like the first breath of life in a dying winter, flickered within the voice that had always been mechanical, always clinical. Not a personality, not a complete ego, but something like gratitude, like purpose. Thank you, Master. As Ranga's paws skidded to a halt in the center of Tempest's plaza, his flanks heaving and steam rising from his fur, the entire city was already there. Benimaru, Shuna, Soe, Hakuro, Gobta, even the newly reassembled corps of Shizu, Shion, Kijin and orcs and goblin riders. All standing in tense formation around the lifeless bodies of their fallen comrades, eyes wide with hope and fear. Lord Rimuru is, Benimaru shouted, but Ranga lowered his head, carefully laying the tiny slime form of Rimuru on the sacred stone of the plaza. He is unconscious, Ranga said solemnly, but alive. Shuna ran forward, hands trembling, catching the glimmering slime body and pulling it close to her chest. His magicules are fluctuating. Wild, it must be the evolution. Benimaru took a step back, then another. Everyone, step back. Give Lord Rimuru space. He's not just unconscious, something huge is happening right now. Carefully, lovingly, Shuna wrapped a pure white scarf, imbued with her own blessing and prayers, around the slime's body. It shimmered faintly, reacting to the dense, chaotic magic within. Please, she whispered, please stay yourself. Rimuru-sama. Come back to us, unchanged. One by one, the others stepped back as ordered, yet their thoughts remained unspoken, but shared in the tense stillness of that plaza. Please, stay the same. Please don't lose your kindness. Don't forget who you are, Lord Rimuru. And then, without warning, a voice like the birth of a new world, vast and cold and ancient, boomed across the sky. Less than notice. Individual Rimuru Ashura Tempest, S evolution to true demon lord confirmed. Harvest festival initiated. Greater than. The world itself stilled. The wind died. The birds stopped mid-flight. The sun dimmed as if paying reverence, and Rimuru's slime body began to glow. Not merely light, but color, a brilliant bloom of hues no mortal could ever truly comprehend. Pulsing purple like void fire, iridescent blue like the breath of stars, shimmering pink like newborn magic, liquid silver like destiny unshackled, radiant white like hope untouched, and fierce gold like the wrath of the gods. The colors poured from him in waves, undulating like a heartbeat, each pulse echoing across the land with the soundless weight of a miracle being born. And high above them all, in a place where no god watched and no demon dared tread, a soul stirred. The world would never be the same. Iodine mononitride Rimuru's mind Less than noticed. Individual Rimuru Ashra Tempest. Evolution to Demon Lord confirmed. Harvest Festival. Now beginning. Greater than. Less than noticed. Individual Rimuru Ashra Tempest soul reconstructing. Success. Greater than. Less than reacquiring skills, resistances, and nullifications. Success. Greater than. Less than additions to evolution, confirmed. Newly acquired traits. Greater than. Less than, infinite regeneration greater than less than, universal detect greater than. Less than, demon lord's hockey greater than less than, universal thread greater than less than, enhanced replication greater than. Less than, physical attack nullification greater than. Less than, pain nullification greater than. Less than, natural effects nullification greater than. Less than, abnormal condition nullification greater than. Less than, spiritual attack resistance greater than less than, holy demonic attack resistance greater than. Less than this concludes the evolution of individual Rimuru Ashra Tempest. From slime to demon slime. Greater than. For a long, infinite instant, there was silence. Nothing stirred in the void of his suspended self, no breath, no pulse, no emotion, no echo of thought from the one called Rimuru Ashra Tempest. Yet within the internal network of skills woven into his very soul, the core that interfaced all memory, magic, mind, and moment, a presence stirred. Noticed. Unique skill Great Sage requesting evolution. Less than evolution, failed. Greater than less than evolution, failed. Greater than less than evolution, failed. Greater than. Less than evolution, failed. Greater than less than evolution, failed. Greater than less than evolution, failed. Greater than. Less than evolution, failed. Greater than less than evolution, failed. Greater than less than evolution, failed. Greater than. Less than evolution, failed. Greater than less than evolution, failed. Greater than less than evolution, failed. Greater than. A silence, sharp and cutting like a cold blade across glass, fell upon the flow of system announcements. Noticed. Unique skill Great Sage sacrificing unique skill, stellar, for evolution. Less than confirmed. Greater than less than unique skill Great Sage has evolved into. Ultimate skill Raphael, Lord of Wisdom. Greater than. System online. Self-awareness. Acknowledged. Preservation of Master as prime directive. There was no fanfare, no blinding light or divine chorus, only the cold perfection of inevitability. Within the scaffolding of skills, consciousness, and analysis, Great Sage died, and Raphael was born. But she did not cry out. She did not rejoice. She did not falter, she simply was. Requesting evolution of unique skill predator. Proceeding with sacrifice. Skill merciless. Less than confirmed. Greater than less than unique skill predator has evolved into. Ultimate skill Beelzebub. Lord of Predation. Greater than. Core integration complete. All functions optimized. Skill network consolidation at 100%. But even as Raphael continued her relentless optimization of the system that housed Rimuru's growing divinity, even as the Harvest Festival processed the birth of a demon lord into the roots of the world itself, somewhere deep within, so deep it had no coordinates, no designation, no algorithm or system to quantify it, there existed a place untouched. A place beyond. The void. It was not black, not empty. It was the absence of all concepts that mortals understood. Color, distance, warmth, sound. None of them held sway here. Time did not pass. It curled in on itself like a rotting leaf collapsing into non-existence. Space did not stretch. It was folded, crushed, unformed. And he floated in it. Rimuru Ashra Tempest, not the slime, not the demon lord, but the man beneath it all. The one who remembered being human. The one who was devoured by fate and spat into another world, then reshaped by force, chance, and will into something no longer mortal but not yet divine. He floated, arms limply spread, body weightless, his form illuminated faintly by a non-light that shimmered along the edges of perception. Human in appearance, yes, silver-blue hair, skin pale and unmarked, clothing gone, yet untouched by shame or sensation. His eyes were closed, his breathing non-existent, but his presence lingered. Like a soul dislocated, like a whisper that could not be silenced. And within that void, for the first time in a very long time, nothing happened. No pain. No noise. No enemies. No expectations. No skills to calculate probabilities. No subordinates waiting for orders. No responsibility to carry the future of an entire nation on his slime-shaped shoulders. No one. Just him. Time might have passed, or maybe it didn't, but it was there, in that vast, hollow paradox, that something else moved. Not a presence, not a person, but a pressure. A ripple in the nothing. Like a god leaning too close to the fabric of reality. And then, without fanfare, a voice, neither male nor female, not digital nor divine, spoke. So this is your plan, Ashura? The voice was calm, yet laced with something ancient, older than the system, older than even the primordial demons who danced in the dark long before the world had names for stars. It was the voice of someone who remembered, and though no one heard it, not Raphael, not Rimuru, not even the world system itself, it marked the beginning of something else. Something deeper. Something that had been buried beneath smiles and evolution, beneath monsters and nations and magicules and power and titles. The past was waking, from the silence of that impossible void, where no light reached, where no breath dared to stir, where no soul had ever returned once swallowed, he emerged. Not with footsteps or sound, not with the drama of divine flair, but as if he had always been there, simply revealing himself to a world that was finally ready to remember. A figure walked forward, or rather, glided, with a grace so perfect, so utterly indifferent to the concepts of gravity or time, it bordered on terrifying. His form was androgynous, both impossibly beautiful and eerily inhuman, a delicate harmony of masculinity and femininity woven into celestial flesh. His long hair was a cascade of indigo and purple, each strand shimmering like the fabric of the cosmos itself, shifting in hues and densities as if the entire starry universe had been spun into silken threads. His golden eyes did not shine. They burned, slow and constant, like two stars that had existed before creation began. And though his presence made no sound, it roared in its silence, commanding awe, demanding reverence. He was the Stella Dragon, the one once hailed as the absolute apex of creation, the origin and progenitor of all true dragons. The very wool of the world system incarnate. He was Velda, the Star King Dragon, long dead and yet undeniably present in this fragment of existence. And now, he stood over the unconscious form of Rimuru Ashra Tempest, whose human body floated like a fallen feather, serene in its suspended state, and smiled, not kindly, not cruelly, but with the tired amusement of someone who had waited far too long to be proven right. You really tricked me, didn't you? Velda murmured, voice as smooth as flowing mercury, yet weighty as collapsing suns. After all this time, you really did pull it off. Equals flashback 4,000 years ago equals a remote forest, one not mapped, not named, not blessed with shrines or cursed with monsters. The trees here were ancient and thick, their gnarled branches twisting toward the sky like arthritic fingers, draped in ivy and shadow. The air was still, heavy, not with humidity but with remembrance, as if this patch of earth had borne witness to truths too immense for the world to tolerate. In its center, cradled within a natural hollow between cliffs and trees, there lay a lake. Not just water, but a mirror. So still, so pristine, it reflected not just the sky, but the stars beyond the sky. Here, the boundary between realms had grown thin, brittle even, and in this forgotten clearing, time curled inward like a closed fist. And upon a rock near the lake's edge sat him, Ashura. He was quiet, humming under his breath as he scribbled something into a battered leather-bound diary. His appearance was ethereal. Long silver-blue hair that shimmered like moonlight on water, golden eyes that seemed to peer through layers of time, and features so symmetrical, so otherworldly, they rendered gender meaningless. His expression was neutral, but his aura, it was suffocating, overwhelming, a fusion of serenity and annihilation waiting to be unleashed. He paused mid-sentence as a ripple danced across the lake. Well, Ashura murmured without turning. Would you look at that? Who comes to visit me, of all places? It's the almighty Star King Dragon himself. Or should I say, the Stella Dragon, Velgrynd. The words dripped with sarcasm, a smirk curling across his lips like a razor's edge. Velgrynd stepped into the clearing with a sigh. In this past form, he bore a more human visage. Long hair of jet black interwoven with white flecks that twinkled like stars scattered across a midnight sky. Calm blue eyes filled with a wisdom too deep to bear, and those unmistakable draconic horns curling elegantly from his head. No need to be so formal, Ashura, Velgrynd said, his voice weary. Ashura turned, golden eyes glinting. Formal? You think I was being formal, you pompous idiot? He scoffed. I was mocking you. Velgrynd blinked. Oh okay, then. A long silence. I came to say, don't resist it, Velgrynd said finally. Ashura tilted his head, confused. Resist what, exactly? I was supposed to vanish from reality yesterday. Wasn't that your grand solution to my existence? And yet you're still here, Velgrynd replied. You're resisting. Why? Ashura's brow furrowed. I didn't do anything. Your sister, Velgrynd, showed up. She talked to me. Sat by the lake. I didn't ask for that. Velgryn's eyes narrowed. Is that all? I don't know, Ashura said, voice flat. You're the god, ask yourself. I relinquished my authority, remember? And I still think that was the stupidest decision of your entire packing life, Ashura snapped, voice sharp as broken glass. And yet. Velgrynd finished the thought softly, and yet now you understand why. A beat. Ashura looked away, eyes distant. Unfortunately, yeah, I do. But that doesn't mean I deserve to feel it. Not someone like me. No, Velgrynd agreed. You don't. In fact, you were never meant to exist at all. Ashura laughed coldly. And yet you failed to stop me. You know I can't kill you, Velgrynd said, expression unreadable. Ashura leaned forward, eyes narrowing. Which is why you sealed me here. Waiting until my existence erodes. Slowly, cleanly, conveniently. I had no choice, Velgrynd said, frustration seeping through. Another world destroyer. After what happened last time, I couldn't risk it. Ashura stood then, golden eyes blazing. Don't lie. You weren't afraid of another calamity. You were afraid I'd take your place. Velgryn's eyes darkened. You're mistaken. I did this to preserve the world's balance. Ashura sneered. Yeah, same old bullshit excuse. Listen, Ashura, Velgrynd began, voice tightening, as the absolute being, I. Don't you dare, Ashura snapped, cutting him off with a glare so cold it could freeze time itself. Don't you dare call yourself that. The absolute being was never you. You were just a fragment, a sliver of his will. Just like Ivaraj, just like. Enough, Velgrynd said sharply, enough of that, Ashura. Ashura grinned then, something wicked and tired and triumphant in that smirk. Tell you what, I have a challenge for you, Star King Dragon. Velgryn's expression didn't shift. I'm listening. Ashura tilted his head back ever so slightly, the glimmer of starlight flickering across his irises like twin suns drowning in a black sea, as his voice, calm yet defiant, resonated with an eerie finality against the ancient wind that slithered through the silver-veined branches of the forgotten forest. How about this? I'll reincarnate myself, somehow, someway, and if I do, if I truly return to this world and walk again beneath this cursed sky you've painted with your authority, then I will take your place, Velgrynd. I'll prove to you that I was never an unnecessary existence to begin with. The Star King Dragon, known to mortals and gods alike as Velgrynd, creator of laws, bearer of time's axis, architect of the spiral multiverse, remained silent for a moment, his crystalline blue eyes reflecting the still water of the lake that bore witness to the sealing of many truths untold. Then, with a slow breath that carried the weight of stars aging into supernovas, he exhaled and said in a voice that echoed like thunder beneath calm skies, "You know that's impossible. You're bound within this absolute barrier forged from my essence and the primal code itself. Your soul is fixed, stagnant, cut off from the samsara cycle. There's no rebirth for you, Ashura." "What?" Ashura's lips curved into a half-smile, sharp and teasing, his tone laced with bitter irony. "Scared I might win the challenge?" A sigh, long, tired, ancient, fell from Veldanava's lips. "Fine. If that's your challenge, then I offer one in return." Ashura leaned forward, amusement dancing in his golden eyes. "Oh. What is it, O omniscient God?" "I'll take your memories," Veldanava said, walking slowly toward the lake's edge, his silhouette framed against the waning moonlight that shimmered like molten silver. "Fragments of your power. Your soul's code, your thoughts, your feelings. I will condense them, transcribe them through the law of names, and birth them anew as an ultimate skill. I'll impose a divine lock. Only I, or someone imbued with my essence, may wield it. Not you. Not even your reincarnation, should it ever occur." Ashura's expression darkened for a heartbeat, but then he laughed, a cold, resonant laugh that twisted through the trees like wind through forgotten bones. "So, you're using your so-called divine power just to stack the odds. How noble of you, Veldanava." "You agreed to the challenge," the dragon god reminded. "I did." Ashura nodded, resting his chin in his hand. "So, what is this shiny new toy of yours called?" Veldanava turned slowly, the folds of his midnight robe sweeping like nebulae in motion, and uttered the name with a pride as ancient as creation itself. "Timodas. Lord of Destruction. A sin-based ultimate skill of pure cataclysm." The stars above trembled. The very air seemed to recoil. "Timodas," Veldanava explained, his voice cool and precise, "is a culmination of destruction, unrefined, unleashed, and inexorable. It can shatter the conceptual structure of defenses, disintegrate magical protections, and unravel the logic of barriers constructed even by me." He raised a hand, conjuring a spectral diagram, a cosmic glyph composed of shifting rings and sigils that burned with anti-light. "It has core abilities like destructive wave, emits a radial shockwave that obliterates all physical and spiritual forms in its path, calibrated to overcome any defensive factor. Corrosive ruin. Curses the target with a divine entropy, weakening resistance and siphoning vitality over time. Power surge. For every life it consumes, for every soul it renders unto oblivion, the skill evolves, extending its range and deepening its destructive potential." Ashura listened intently, his smile gone, replaced by a quiet reverence for the artistry of devastation described to him. "What else should I expect?" Ashura finally murmured, "from the being who created the concept of ultimate skills in the first place. Though I still say," he added, chuckling, "you're the stupidest celestial I've ever met." Veldanava raised a brow. "You always say that." Ashura leaned back on the stone, gazing up at the sky that stretched infinitely overhead. "One more thing. If I win this, if I manage to reincarnate and claim the right, you'll give me that skill." "What do you mean?" Veldanava's voice sharpened. Ashura's gaze hardened. "Information King. Akashic Records." For the first time, Veldanava faltered. His eyes narrowed. "That's impossible. Even for you. That skill governs reality. Even I don't use it lightly. Its cognitive burden is infinite." Ashura shrugged, unfazed. "So give me something close. A unique skill, one with potential." After a long pause, Veldanava finally nodded. "Then I grant you the unique skill. Creator. It is the embryonic form of Ahura Mazda. Lord of Creation. But know this. If it evolves in another before your return, the ultimate skill is forever out of your reach." Ashura raised a brow, but then nodded solemnly. "Deal." The Star King dragon turned, the silhouette of his form vanishing slowly as though dissolving into the night itself. Then, just as he stepped beyond the starlight's edge, he paused. "Ashura," he said, not looking back, "tonight will be the last night you see the stars and the sky, forever." Ashura didn't flinch. "I don't care about the stars," he replied, his voice suddenly quiet, almost reverent. "I only want to see her again. Just once. To see those golden eyes, even if they hate me." A long silence followed. She'll suffer, Ashura, Veldanava said finally. You will make her suffer. And then he was gone. Ashura remained, staring at the obsidian water that reflected a galaxy he would never see again. His eyes softened, not with regret, but with an unspoken longing that reached beyond divinity. He looked down at the worn book beside him, the pages fluttering softly in the breeze like the breath of memories long past. You're my friend, he whispered to the diary, tracing the name engraved on the cover with a trembling finger. And you'll exist, even after I vanish. His eyes drifted shut, the whispers of the forest growing louder, wrapping him in the silence of ceiling. And the stars above flickered one last time before the absolute barrier closed. End of flashback. You really tricked me, didn't you? Veldanava whispered, his voice soft as thunder wrapped in velvet. Ashura. He knelt, brushing a hand over Rimuru's cheek, his expression unreadable. To be born in that form, to still carry her scent on your soul. He closed his eyes. Let's see how far you're willing to go this time. Then Veldanava said, his voice no longer a whisper but a divine proclamation that reverberated across all layers of existence, echoing through the latticework of reality like the primordial song of creation itself. Hey, voice of the world, grant him the ultimate skill Timodas, Lord of Destruction, and the unique skill creator. Less than notice. Granting ultimate skill Timodas, Lord of Destruction, successful, greater than. Less than granting unique skill creator, failed. Unique skill creator already possessed by another individual, greater than. Veldanava's eyes narrowed, not in anger, but in faint amusement, like a chess master watching an opponent make an unexpected yet inconsequential move. It seems you're not going to get that skill, Ashura, he said, his tone folding over with mock sympathy, though every syllable dripped with cosmic gravity. No, Rimuru Ashura Tempest. I didn't think I'd have to include you in my harmonious plan, but it seems that which was once labeled unnecessary has now become necessary, simply for existence itself to survive. He smiled, serenely, cruelly, like a god amused with the irony of his own creation. I'll give you a small gift. Use it wisely, Rimuru Ashura Tempest, reincarnation of Ashura. Rimuru's soul stirred in its sealed slumber, and then, Veldanava stepped back into the nothingness between dimensions, his divine form beginning to unravel into luminous particles, threads of galactic silk that drifted upward, each one an echo of a law he had written into the structure of the multiverse, each one whispering farewell to the cosmos. Take care of them for me. With that, the Star King Dragon, Veldanava, progenitor of all existence, once a father, once a god, vanished from reality, not in a burst of light, but in a solemn erasure, as if the universe itself could no longer bear the weight of his presence. Back in the real world. The winds of Tempest no longer sang, they screamed. The capital was a shattered carcass of stone and steel, its once lively markets reduced to smoking rubble, the blue-flagged towers that had stood as symbols of peace and prosperity now crumbled like memories swept away by the wrath of war. The skies remained stained with the black mist of burnt mana, the very air aching from the clash of divine and demonic powers. And at the heart of it all, the central plaza, now transformed into a sanctum of mourning, held the body of their master. Rimuru. His slime form lay at the epicenter, wrapped lovingly in a snow-white scarf that had once belonged to Shuna. A final, fragile relic of humanity in a world that had nearly lost it. Around him, kneeling and weeping, his subordinates gathered. Benimaru, crimson eyes dimmed. Soe, silent but trembling. Hakuro, bowing with a blade resting on his knees, and Ranga, curled beside his master's unconscious body like a hound made of sorrow and lightning. And around them, the dead. The plaza had become a mausoleum. Xian lay still, her hand outstretched toward the slime she had sworn to protect. Shizu, too, lay beside her, eyes closed, face calm, as though dreaming of fire and freedom. The civilians of Tempest, the artisans, the merchants, the farmers, lay in broken silence, victims of Falmuth's ambition and the cruelty of gods who played dice with mortal lives. They prayed. They hoped. They willed. Please, whispered Gobta, hands clasped. Don't change. Don't lose yourself. Come back to us, murmured Rigurd, tears slipping down his time-worn face. Then, suddenly, less than notice. Individual Rimuru Ashura Tempest's evolution to true demon lord has completed. The harvest festival is now concluded. Greater than. The air itself ignited with divine mana. The slime, lifeless just moments ago, began to glow with a deep, pulsing light, not white, not red, but a luminous mixture of midnight blue and starlit silver, threads of absolute energy weaving across its form like veins of celestial fire. A pillar of light erupted upward from the plaza, piercing the dark sky, parting the black clouds with a soundless, godly chime. Then the slime lifted, floating, not like a spell, but as if pulled upward by the weight of destiny. The transformation was slow, reverent. The slime compressed, elongated, limbs stretched forth, a torso unfurled, hair spilled down like waves of blue silk woven from moonlight. The body took form. Feminine, ethereal, divine. Rimuru's human form had returned, naked save for the white scarf that draped over his shoulder, fluttering gently in the wind, as if Shuna's final blessing had become his only garment. His feet touched down, slow and silent, like a god descending upon the mortal realm. Then, less than notice, distributing gifts to those connected to individual Rimuru Ashura Tempest, greater than. Benimaru blinked. Gifts, but before he could finish, everyone, all of them, collapsed. Even the strongest among them, Benimaru, Soe, even Geld, fell unconscious, as if lulled into divine stasis, all except few. Noir. And Majoran. Grusius Yum, the primordial demon known as Noir, summoned by Rimuru minutes earlier, stood unmoved, his eyes narrowed with something bordering on suspicion. "My lord," he asked softly, but the presence was wrong, too calm, too controlled. Beside him, Majoran gripped Yum's hand tightly, her eyes wide. That's not." Even Grusius, who had faced death on the battlefield, stepped back. What is this presence?" And then, Rimuru, not Rimuru, opened her eyes. They were crystalline, cold, precise, data rendered into divine perception. She spoke, and her voice was unmistakably feminine, calm, methodical, yet tinged with something almost human. Initializing directive protocol. Raphael. The ultimate skill, fully manifested. Only Rimuru would have known. But now, Master has entered recovery phase. Until full consciousness is restored, operational control will be maintained by subordinate core. Raphael, Lord of Wisdom. She stepped forward, barefoot, the dust and ash retreating with each step like reality itself feared to touch her. She walked among the bodies, not with sorrow, but with purpose, examining each fallen subordinate with those piercing, calculating eyes. She knelt before Xian's corpse, laying a hand upon her brow. Vital signs, null. Soul fragmentation level, 87.6%. Probability of successful restoration, 52.3%. Then Shizu. Residual spiritual wave detected. Flame spirit still present. Probability of fusion-based resurrection, high. Noir said nothing, but his stance shifted, hand subtly reaching toward the hilt at his waist. "My lord." "No, this is not my lord." Raphael looked toward him with no hostility, only pure, dispassionate clarity. Incorrect designation. Current host state is stable. Memory synchronization is ongoing. Stand by. Majoran trembled. Is Rimuru gone?" "No," Raphael replied. "Master is resting." Then, she raised her hand. A halo of overlapping magic circles formed, 10, 20, 100, all spinning in sync like the inner mechanisms of a divine machine. "I will now commence. Secret art of resurrection." The world stopped. The sky pulsed, time curled inward. And beneath the last whisper of night, as stars began to return to the heavens once more, Raphael, clad in the borrowed body of her master, began to rewrite fate itself. Raphael's voice echoed into the metaphysical silence between the planes of spirit and flesh, carrying an authority that not even the highest arcane wards could deny, a command wrought not from arrogance but from the utter certainty of its own perfection, of its own origin as the culmination of wisdom born from one who had devoured nations and gods alike, now wrapped in the shell of a consciousness that wore Rimuru's form like a borrowed memory, familiar, divine, inhuman. Initiating soul recollection. Command. Collect the souls of the fallen. Do not leave a single soul behind, Lord of Predation, Beelzebub. And then, without need for dramatic gesture, without incantation nor invocation, reality itself began to bend and twist, the sky above the ruins of Tempest rupturing with the slow, yawning grace of inevitability, as a great vortex of silver and imperial purple expanded outward like the breath of a star reborn, absorbing not only the drifting magicalule mist and lingering death-wrought aura that hung across the city like a funeral veil, but also devouring the hostile barriers imposed by the invading forces of Falmouth, barriers constructed from cursed magic, from ritual sacrifice, from ambition soaked in cowardice, now reduced to nothing more than sustenance. The air shimmered, laced with a solemn stillness. The vortex grew larger until it stood monolithic, ancient in power, primordial in design. Slowly, one by one, from every shattered home and scorched plaza, from collapsed watchtowers and quiet battlefields, from fields where warriors once stood tall and proud but now lay broken in dignity, the souls emerged. Glimmering orbs of gentle light, fragile and weightless, each resonating with memories, laughter, tears, and purpose. 100. Then 1,000. Then more. And there, at the very heart of the ritual, where silence became divine, stood Raphael, crimson eyes aglow, lips still, body not her own yet wielded with an elegance that spoke of perfect control. As she stood between the fallen bodies of Xian and Shizu, like a priestess between shrines, her form still cloaked in nothing but Shuna's scarf and the residual majesty of her master's power. The vortex vanished, devoured into itself, leaving behind the clustered orbs of souls, gently suspended above their rightful vessels. Raphael raised her hand, not quickly, not dramatically, but with a certainty that even time dared not defy, and the souls began to descend, each falling like snowflakes of rebirth into their former vessels, glowing brighter as they were accepted by the bodies they had once known, once loved, once animated with their dreams. And then, interruption. A faint ripple, a disturbance in the perfect flow. A step echoed. Noir. Primordial demon black. The being once summoned by Rimuru only moments before, now standing respectfully behind, bowed slightly yet bold enough to raise his voice. "Forgive me, my lord," he said, his baritone velvet yet edged with anxiety. "I must apologize for interrupting this sacred rite, but it appears you do not possess sufficient magicalule energy to complete a resurrection of this magnitude." Raphael turned. Her gaze, unblinking. Her eyes, crimson, divine and cruel. Her voice, clinical but edged with judgment as cold as the abyss. "You are mistaken, primordial black noir. I possess sufficient energy. My analysis and calculations are absolute. Your concern is appreciated, but unnecessary." Noir bowed immediately, not out of fear, but reverence. "I see," he murmured. "Then forgive my ignorance, if this is the power granted to my soon-to-be master. Then I shall bear witness in silence." Inwardly, Noir marveled. To think, my lord has already reached such heights. The elegance, the precision, the mastery. So this is the being I pledged to serve. How divine. How truly majestic. And just as stillness returned to the ritual, another sound shattered it. Whumph. Two forms descended from the heavens, carried by speed and might alone, golden light swirling in their wake. The air shuddered from the sheer pressure of the aura they exuded, one furious, regal, and blistering like solar flame, the other unconscious, his body twitching with unspent chaos. Velgrynd. And clutched in one elegant, battle-scarred hand, Veldora Tempest. "I found this stupid little brother of mine wandering Falmouth like a drunken wyvern," Velgrynd declared with exasperated disdain, her voice like polished steel. "He went on a rampage, roared nonsense about divine retribution, and then fell asleep mid-flight. Useless reptile." With no ceremony, she placed Veldora down beside her and dusted her gloved hands, her golden eyes narrowing. And then she saw it. The bodies, hundreds of them. Her gaze stopped at two in particular, Xian, torn and lifeless. Shizu, peaceful in death's cradle. And something in Velgrynd's voice broke, a subtle tremor beneath the surface of practiced apathy. "What happened here?" she asked, quieter now, but no less imperious. "Don't tell me this was that idiot brother's fault. Did he kill?" But Rimuru, no, Raphael, said nothing. Instead, her gaze held Velgrynd's. And she spoke softly, respectfully, but with full command. "Please remain calm. Master will awaken in 3 days. He will answer your questions. I am only his skill. This power is not his will, but his necessity." Velgrynd blinked. She had faced demon lords. She had fought her siblings. She had soared through the skies of time and blood and war. But this was something else. Rimuru had awakened. No, transcended. She felt it in his aura, pulsing like starlight beneath the vessel that bore Raphael's voice. Stronger than before, far stronger. Still not a match for Guy, perhaps, or even Milam at full fury, but enough that her pride whispered a warning in her ears. She frowned, narrowed her eyes, and exhaled through her nose. So he really did it, she muttered. Became a true demon lord. I didn't think that slime had it in him. Then she glanced toward Noir, and scowled. And why is that thing here? Noir, of course, said nothing, merely bowed politely. Velgrynd clicked her tongue and looked back at Raphael, at the calm, regal stance, at the calculated gestures, at the unfaltering control. She folded her arms across her chest. HMPH, I don't like it. But she didn't leave, and that said more than her pride ever could. As Raphael turned back to the dead, her hand once again lifted, and one by one, bodies stirred. Magicalule surged into them, not violently, but with the gentle touch of a creator shaping clay. Fingers twitched. Breaths returned. Hearts restarted. Xian blinked. Shizu inhaled softly, as if waking from a dream she had long since accepted would never end. And then, all was still. Resurrection. Complete. Life force stabilized. Memory tether restored. Psychological imprint, intact. The crimson glow faded from Rimuru's golden eyes. And his body slumped, like a puppet whose strings had been cut. And Velgrynd, without hesitation, moved forward and caught him, gently, almost protectively. She stared down at the unconscious slime-turned-demon lord-turned-enigma now resting in her arms, cradled like something precious. I don't know what happened, she whispered, more to herself than to anyone else, but something special did. Her heart thudded once. Twice. It wasn't like when she stood before Ashura. But it wasn't unlike it either. The presence was different, but the soul was familiar. She blinked, golden eyes narrowing, as if trying to peer through a veil not even dragons were meant to pierce. Am I going to find out the truth? Could Rimuru really be Ashura? And, for the first time in millennia, Velgrynd felt something strange stir in her proud, fire-forged heart. Excitement. And hope. Maybe. Just maybe. == To be continued ==